Hello, my friends. Good evening to you all. So great to see you here. Holy moly. What a day. What a day. I know I start the stream every week by saying, this is the biggest show ever, and I'm so pumped. But I have to tell you, this tonight was by far the hardest and most difficult of every show I've done to prep and get ready for. Um, it's been unbelievable. So first and foremost, let's do our traditional just roll down. Let me look through the chat. Coach N, hello. AAU, hello. Max, hello. Andy, what's up? Sherry, how's it going? Lisa T, Coaster Mom, Carla, thank you all for being here. And D, I see you there as well. So great to have you all here. Pierce, I see you. Did I miss you? No, I didn't miss you. There's Pierce. Wow. So great to have you. So excited to have you. Whew, tonight. And hello, Candy. Welcome in. Duke Mom, hello. Brian, hello. This is amazing. So there's so many things to go over tonight. First and foremost, we are sitting so close. And Andy, thank you. I just saw, there it is. Andy, thank you for subscribing. You are number 195, my friend. We are now 5 more away from the magic 200 number. So thank you guys so much. Mikey, what's up? How's it going? Bistro Buzz, welcome. Lee, holy moly, thank you guys so much. So, if you have not subscribed, I would really appreciate it. I'd love to hit that 200 number tonight. That would be insane. I may fall off the chair. We're 5 away. So thank you guys so much. So what are we doing here tonight? Tonight is the very much anticipated episode to talk sitcoms. And sitcoms, this is why this was so hard for me. Looking back on what I wanted to talk about and what I wanted to bring up and discuss, there were so many. when you look back through the history of sitcoms, it blew my mind. I was reading these titles and I'm like, we have to talk about all of these. Everyone's gonna have memories and think of the theme songs, and what are we gonna do? Taint, welcome in. Devora, welcome in. Oh, guys, I'm so excited to see everyone coming in, and I'm even more excited to talk about sitcoms with you. So what I've done, because this list is huge, and depending on when you grew up, there are certain shows you're going to love, certain shows you're going to hate. So I tried to grab just a few. Taint, awesome. Thank you so much for the subscription. Amazing. Spain, welcome in. So I tried to grab some sitcoms that I think will be great to have some good conversation about. I guarantee you there are some that are not here. For 100%, there are some that are missing. And that's okay. That is okay. We're allowed to be missing some. But definitely, as we go along and we talk through the decades, as we do for all the other topics, please feel free, put in the chat, put in the shows you want, put in the quotes, put in the stuff that you'd love, because it's a good help for me and a good reminder to remember, some of the shows I may have missed. And I'm just looking at YouTube. Oh my God, we've done it, guys. We've done it. Okay. Sorry. We hit 200. So big round of applause for you guys. I'm really sorry. I was not expecting this tonight. And seeing all the names in it, whew. Thank you guys. Okay. Guys are too much. Okay. All right. Composure. So let's get right into it, or I'm not going to make it through the show. Holy moly. Thank you so much. Okay. So let's start. Man, you guys are too much. All right. We're going right back. We're going to jump right in and we're going to hit it in the 70s. Now, there were so many amazing shows. And even if you didn't grow up in the 70s, maybe you grew up in the 80s, 90s, there were some amazing shows. And for me, this is really what started my love of TV. Now, I was way too young in the late 70s to really understand what I was watching, and it wasn't until I was a little bit older in the 80s and I started seeing a lot of this on TV. All in the Family. All in the Family was such an unbelievable show, and it was one of those that, when it would come on late at night and the reruns, and you go, oh, again, All in the Family. But as soon as I'd start watching it, it was like, oh man, this is the greatest. It was so funny. Happy Days. I don't care what generation you grew up. Everybody knows the Fonz. Everyone knows, hey, right? The thumbs up, the leather jacket. How many characters have we seen throughout history based on the Fonz, right? He is the man, and he's still in stuff today. I mean, I think he has an appearance in every Adam Sandler movie at some point, right? WKRP. WKRP paved the way for so many shows to follow it. And again, so many funny moments. And Lisa T, it's so true. So true. Oh, she says only 3 channels back then. Absolutely. This is back when if you wanted to change, you had to get up off the couch, watch to the TV, and click, 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 as you turn that dial. MASH. MASH was such an important show to me because it was the first time that, as a youngster, that I really got opened up to, the whole notion of the military and what was going on out there. And even though, it was a comedy and what they were doing, there were so many important subjects talked about through MASH. Max says, I don't know any of these shows. That's okay, Max. That's okay. But if you're looking through, definitely Happy Days and MASH are great ones to take a look. But one of the classics of all time is Mork and Mindy. And we all know what Robin Williams was able to do, throughout the generations, Mrs. Doubtfire and his movies and how brilliant he was. But if you go back and watch Mork and Mindy was something special. It really brought out so much and I think really introduced Robin Williams to the world because he was such an out there character, right? This alien who comes down and is living in the real world. He was just brilliant. He was so brilliant. Yes, when TV was actually enjoyable. That's so true. And you know what? The TV has definitely changed, and we're going to see it as we start talking through the decades. We're going to see how a lot of things have changed, and really, some got a little bit better, some not so much. But I really just wanted to spend a few minutes in talking about kind of the 70s because that is really where things started. Some honorable mentions we've got to throw out. Hogan's Heroes, if you remember Hogan's Heroes. Of course, ending really at the beginning of the 70s, the Beverly Hillbillies. Everybody loved the Beverly Hillbillies. Some of the other kind of interesting shows out there that have actually been remade, Bewitched. If you guys remember Bewitched, Green Acres, one of the classics. And I was torn where to put this one because it started in the 70s and it went right through the 80s. But Three's Company. Three's Company was so awesome, and they really took on a lot of really serious topics in a comedic way. So I did want to give a shout out to Three's Company. Gosh, yeah, the 70s were so good as some of these shows really started to blend in. Soap, if you remember Soap, talked about WKRP, Taxi. Oh my gosh, how could I forget? Now, this is a little bit into the 60s, but I Dream of Jeannie. I mean, how many people remember that? She's doing, did her little thing and would disappear. I Dream of Jeannie was just, really for me, actually, when I think about it and look back, I Dream of Jeannie, it really, it made you laugh in a way because it was so out there, and it was so funny. And let's be realistic, Jeannie wasn't so hard on the eyes when you're a little kid, right? Everybody loved Jeannie. She was funny. She was relatable in the most bizarre ways. It was so good. But the 80s is where I want to spend a lot of time because I think this is where a lot of us can relate a lot to. And yes, Coach N, Columbo, absolutely. Columbo, Barney Miller, for sure. But the 80s is a little bit of my bread and butter because this is where I grew up. This is what I know. And I actually spent a lot of my life watching a lot of these shows. And I'm sure you guys did as well. Starsky and Hutch, Coach, absolutely. So we get into the 80s, Mr. Belvedere. And I think Mr. Belvedere was one of those kind of back and forth. But Mr. Belvedere, for me, it was one of the first times to be introduced to that whole notion of, a butler and serving people, and he was the wise man. And I think Mr. Belvedere, in many ways, kind of paved the way to some of the way we think about and appreciated Fresh Prince. And we're going to talk about Fresh Prince later. But Mr. Belvedere really brought that style to television, and it was really great. One of my favorites, all-time favorites, and I still watch it today if I can see it on reruns, is Who's the Boss? Hey, yo, Angela. Everybody loved Tony Danza. Tony Danza was the best. Very young Alyssa Milano. Mona. What a great character she was. Who's the Boss was just so funny, and it was such a great way to relax, in the afternoons and putting it on and having some laughs. But again, also dealt with some very serious and sometimes hard to hear topics. Staying in the realm of that, family theme, Family Ties, of course. Michael J. Fox, Family Ties was such a great, great show. And it's probably the only time on any kind of public forum when you can talk about Family Ties and talk about, Alex P. Keaton and, what was his best friend's name? Anybody remember Michael J. Fox's best friend's name in Family Ties? Was it Oh no, it was Growing Pains. See, I'm mixing the two of them up already. My gosh, it was Growing Pains. Another great family one. And Family Ties and Growing Pains, I'd watch those back to back all the time. Does anyone remember the best friend's name? The only time it's politically acceptable to say it, you got it, Boner. And hey, Shauna, welcome in, Boner. So classic. Everybody giggles, everybody has a laugh. But two of the greatest family sitcoms of all time, where again they dealt with, addiction, they dealt with school, and studying, they dealt with partying, you name it, they dealt with it. They got into adoption later on, so many tough topics in such a great way. And those are two iconic shows, Family Ties and Growing Pains, that everybody could watch. And I know, Max, you're here. Those would definitely be some great shows to go back and get a kick out of. Kirk Cameron, yes, it was Kirk Cameron in Growing Pains, and Alan Thicke as well. Good old Canadian boy Alan Thicke. And if any of you watched The Masked Singer and you see, his son Robin Thicke, they are almost identical, which is crazy. But yeah, I loved those two shows. Up in the top, kind of right next to Who's the Boss, we have Cheers. Come on now, Cheers with this group will probably relate so much. Cheers was one of those feel-good shows, and I know the cast kind of turned over a lot, but some huge, huge stars that were in there. Kirstie Alley and Ted Danson. You had, oh my gosh, now I forget his name. White Man Can't Jump, Woody Harrelson. So many huge, huge stars really kind of came out in Cheers. Norm is the original Barney, right? Sits at the end of the bar with the beer the whole time. Such a lovable, fun character. You had, what's his name? He had his own spin-off show, and I blocked his name because the show drove me nuts. The psychiatrist. What was his name? With the curly hair and the glasses, Fraser. Kind of, they had that crossover. And so it was really, really a cool show. Yes, Sherry, Coach, and I'm assuming when you say Coach, you're not referring to our coach here, Coach N, but the show Coach. Coach was really, really funny. I didn't like it when I started watching it, but I really got into it much, much later on, looking back on it, and it was really great. Yes, Tattoo Tate. Thank you, Kelsey Grammer. Kelsey Grammer, who had his own kind of run-ins with some trouble and some issues, but I didn't like his show overly much. But Cheers, I love. Cheers, I could go back and watch any times over. And so I'll tell you a little story about Cheers because I love telling stories. So Kirstie Alley in Cheers, became super huge. She went off. She did Look Who's Talking and a bunch of movies. And she did a little movie with Steve Guttenberg and Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen called It Takes Two. Don't know if any of you have seen it, but essentially it's almost like a Parent Trap kind of spin-off where they're twins. They kind of switch places and try and get Steve Guttenberg and Kirstie Alley to fall in love. No spoilers, because the movie is like 30 years old. So the movie was actually filmed just north of the city of Toronto, and Kirstie Alley rented the house next door to my parents. Hey, Christina G, welcome in. Um, so one day, my mom, being the neighborly neighbor that she was, went over, saw a moving truck was there, and just kind of went over to introduce herself and, see if they needed any help or welcome them to the neighborhood. And let's see, Andy Ward, it takes two to make a thing go right. It takes two to make it out of sight. Absolutely, Andy. So my mom goes over and introduces herself, and lo and behold, it's Kirstie Alley. So they have a wonderful conversation, and my mom comes back over and she says, "Guys, you'll never believe who's moving in next door." And so my brothers were much younger, so she said, "Oh, it's Kirstie Alley," and they didn't know really who she was, and I kind of said, "Kirstie Alley from Cheers, like that Kirstie Alley? 'Cause you never know, maybe there's more." And she said, "Yeah, it's Kirstie Alley from Cheers." So we're like, "Holy moly!" So of course, Kirstie was there with at the time her husband and her two kids, and so my parents had a pool in their backyard. So Kirstie would come over all the time, bring her little kids. Now they were like toddlers, bring them over to hang out in the pool, let the dogs run around the backyard, the whole thing. So it was really, really cool. As a huge fan of Cheers, now having Kirstie Alley hanging out in our house, just doing, being normal out of the spotlight was really, really cool. She did take us to the set one day to hang out. Got to meet Steve Guttenberg, who was amazing. And of course, I couldn't think of anything cool to say when I met Steve Guttenberg. So the only thing I mustered up enough to be was like, "Oh, I loved you in Short Circuit." And that was terrible. He was like, "All right, thanks, kid." I couldn't think of anything about Police Academy, nothing. It's just I went straight for Short Circuit and really embarrassed myself. But that was okay. Steve Guttenberg was such a cool guy. Um, Kirstie Alley, she invited us to come to her house. She made us dinner from scratch, no chefs, no nothing, like super, super cool. So why am I telling you this story? So it is relatable, talking about Cheers. It does have a tie-in to another great show that we're going to talk about in a few minutes called Full House. So as I mentioned, Kirstie Alley was there. She was doing the movie with the Olsen twins. So they made some arrangements with my folks, and my mom says, "Okay, guys, I'm just letting you know, Kirstie's going to come over swimming again, but she's bringing some friends, so please just be respectful." Okay, sure, of course. She brings the Olsen twins to our house for a pizza and pool party, and my mom, with the old VHS camcorder up on the shoulder, is taking all these home movies. So we have these home movies hanging out with Kirstie Alley and the Olsen twins, which was so cool because, for me, Cheers and then, Full House was just awesome. So, so cool. Some of the other great shows from the 80s, Mad About You. I don't know if you guys really watched Mad About You. Again, this is another one I kind of watched very late. And as I was watching it, I really got hooked on it. Paul Reiser was amazing. I actually went and bought his book when we were having our first child. He wrote a baby book about what it's like to become a dad. And, everybody says you got to read the books to understand about having kids. So I didn't go for the what to expect when you're expecting or any of that. I went straight for the Paul Reiser, mad about you version of what it's like to have a kid. Um, that's a very good question. What happened to Paul Reiser? I have no idea. He kind of really disappeared. Fell away for sure. I haven't heard anything about him. Um, see another question. Where did it go? I just saw it there. Magnum Pi. Yes, coach. Magnum was awesome. I loved it then. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the remake at all, but it's really good. I've really been enjoying it. Like Lethal Weapon, they tried to remake that as a TV show, didn't do well, but Magnum is awesome. Same with Hawaii Five-O. If you guys didn't watch the remake of Hawaii Five-O, definitely worth going back and checking out. So as we get to the bottom here, Elf. Elf is the best. I know when we talked about cartoons, was it last week? No, 2 weeks ago, we talked about cartoons. Somebody had brought up Elf. Elf was, again, another one of these really funny shows, excuse me, that dealt with really serious issues in a lighthearted way. So for kids watching, they could pick up on a lot of what they were saying. And even though, you couldn't relate to an alien from Melmac, but you could relate to Elf being sad or being upset, feeling excluded. We talk about today, the world is all about inclusivity and how to make sure that we include as many groups as we can. Elf would be a perfect representation of today, of, somebody who's different, and, being excluded from everything, and the lengths he had to go through to try and fit in. Oh my God, Elf! I had a poodle that when his hair got long, he looked like Elf. That's awesome, Snoopy, and welcome, by the way. That is really cool. Um, I didn't talk about Mama's Family. When we talked about All in the Family, Mama's Family is another one that kind of comes to mind where late at night you're watching it and it's kind of on. You're like, really again? But it was so good. Um, Night Court. Night Court is one of my all-time favorite shows. I don't know when I started watching it or how. I think I just found it by accident. Um, but I loved the characters. I knew nothing about the legal system when I started watching it, but I knew that Judge Harry was funny. I knew that Bull Buchanan was awesome and made me laugh every time he walked through. Dan, the lawyer, the sleazy lawyer, was so hysterical. This was such a great show, and if you haven't watched Night Court, I highly recommend trying to find it on YouTube or pulling it up because it really was something spectacular, and I think it was pretty special. They tried to bring it back, towards the end. I think it went away, and they tried to bring it back, and it just didn't have the same kind of mustard as it did before. Yes, Lisa T, The Cosby Show. As I was going through and putting this together, The Cosby Show hit me pretty hard because I was really torn. Um, we have to recognize The Cosby Show for what it was and how special it was, and what a great show in a very difficult time for realistically, a family of color. Same with Fresh Prince to be as good as it was and as successful it was for that time. But because of everything that happened with Bill, I didn't know realistically how to approach it. So I didn't really put myself down for too much time to talk about it. But it definitely deserves a call out as one of the greatest sitcoms of all time. Of all time. Golden Girls, Coach, absolutely. Golden Girls, Golden Girls was one I remember as a wee little lad that I'd be watching it, and I didn't know if I should be watching it because it was funny, but I wasn't sure if the jokes were appropriate or not because you're kind of so young you didn't really understand what was going on. But Golden Girls, if we had no Golden Girls, there would not be as many shows as we had today. Snoopy says, okay, so the Cosby Show, many people would say the Cosby Show was based off my family. Really? Interesting. Um, okay, yeah, Coach. We talked a little bit about Coach. Such a great show. what did I put in there? I can't even read what one of them is there. Punky Brewster. Punky Brewster was so awesome. Really, really made me laugh. I didn't watch it too much, but I had some friends that were really into Punky Brewster. So you hear, them laughing and the joy they were getting for it. So it definitely deserved to have a little bit of a mention. And of course, everybody remembers Cousin Balky and Perfect Strangers. This show, again, very similar to Alf, where you had Cousin Balky, who is very different, off the wall, just a bizarre character trying to fit in the big city with his uh, you know all the situations that arise, and it was so amazing how they made it come to life and the relationship between those two characters, the way it kind of blossomed and built. And Cousin Balky always made me laugh. And I remember as a teenager, Cousin Balky was always part of the conversation in one way or another. So, one of the shows I did want to spend a little bit of time talking with, and I saw so many people earlier were putting it in the chat, is Saved by the Bell. So Saved by the Bell, for anybody that really kind of grew up in that generation, Saved by the Bell was a special show. I have the DVDs. I have like all the DVDs. I just grabbed the one box, but this is season 1 and 2. I have all the way up to the college years. We won't spend too much time talking about the college years because they were not great. But Saved by the Bell, this was a special show. And it actually started, as many of you probably know, um, it started before Saved by the Bell with Screech and Zach. And when they were in the teacher's class, it was called Good Morning, Miss, and I forget her name. Um, Good Morning, Miss, I forget it is. Somebody will know it. It's Good Morning, Miss something. And that was really the early seasons of Saved by the Bell. And if you have watched, I know there's a couple unofficial documentaries or unofficial stories about Saved by the Bell and how it was put together and how the cast got along. And Miss Bliss, thank you, Christina G for the win. Good Morning, Miss Bliss was kind of the first season of Saved by the Bell, and then they had to make a whole bunch of changes to really figure out what they were going to do because they didn't think that was strong enough working with such new kids and trying to get them along. So the documentaries on how Saved by the Bell kind of started was really, really interesting. Hey, CeeLo, what's going on? Sean, how's it going? The thing that I loved about Saved by the Bell is let's take away all the controversy from backstage because there were so many times when it was canceled, brought back, canceled, brought back. And you're dealing with, a handful of kid actors who are growing up on camera and having all of these issues that what it meant as a kid, kind of growing up with them, everybody wanted to be Zach Morris. Well, I shouldn't say everybody, but everybody wanted to be Zach Morris, right? Zach was the guy. He was the popular guy with the collared shirts, the cool hair, was a little, had a little bulk to him. You had AC Slater, who came in as the jock, the musclehead. Screech was the nerd. Lisa Turtle, who the fashion expertise. Jesse, who was the smarty pants, and of course Kelly Kapowski was the good looking cheerleader. And then I don't know if all of you guys remember, but Tori, and I put in this picture specifically for Tori because I think she was only there for like one season, maybe two. She kind of came in and was kicked out real quick, but definitely wanted to, you know, make mention of her contribution. So I'm just scrolling through some of these comments. Um, yes, so people talking about the remake. The remake was not good. I'll talk a little bit more about the remake in a second. Devora was about Screech in the Hawaiian episode. All right, I probably missed the beginning of that conversation, but Saved by the Bell, they covered everything. They really did, right? They talked about drugs and addiction. We had the episode where they had the megastar coming in to say these stay off drugs, don't smoke pot, and then they catch him smoking pot in the bathroom, and that whole ordeal plays out. You had the caffeine addiction pills where Jesse was trying to study hard and pull the I'm so excited, I'm so excited, I'm so, you know, uh, such a great episode. You had the Friends Forever, the friendship bracelets, where the two groups were creating the bracelets and kind of dueling against each other, and eventually coming together. Max, the cafe with everything that went over there, the dancing. Saved by the Bell just brought in so many different themes, and it was amazing how they brought them all together. The episode when they took apart, was it the principal's car? Principal Belding, they took apart his car and they tried to put it back together, or they couldn't. Or there was one where maybe they did that, but they couldn't fix the brakes, and then he ended up crashing. Mr. Belding was probably the principal everybody loved to have. you know, this show really, really did a lot for a lot of people. And I know for me, um, it really helped because I didn't fit necessarily into one of these molds. I had many different friends in many different groups. And so, watching this show and seeing how all the different groups interacted and at the end of the day really helped each other along, was a big, big, big help. Now, of course, as the show got on, they were dealing with more and more touchy subjects. Of course, you had the whole issue with Dustin Diamond. He did not do well kind of after the show and progressing through, the rest of his life. You never really heard much from Zach Morris, Mark Paul Glossier. He kind of disappeared for a while, wanted nothing to do with Saved by the Bell. I know they tried to do many times to bring them all back. He was on, was it Pacific Blue? I think a beach show where he was a cop. Eventually he did come back for the remake. The remake, I did watch it. It was not great. It definitely took some time to get through it and digest it. Hey, thanks so much there, Lion. I really appreciate it. Um, the new one, it took some getting used to. I watched it because, Jesse and Slater are back. Zach and Kelly made some appearances. Oh no, my screen is falling down. Sorry. This is what happens live webcasts. um, where's my maintenance when I need them? So yeah, the new show, it's okay to watch. It's definitely worth to watch, but keep really low expectations. NYPD Blue. There it is, Brian. You got it. NYPD Blue. I was close. I think I said Pacific Blue or something like that. Um, Kelly Kapowski, she went on, did on 90210, was on some car show, some speedy car show, but never really, 90210, she did well, but she never really kind of exploded. Jessie Spano, I think we all know what happened to her. She did that movie, what was it called? Showgirls, that did not go over very well. And I think that kind of really tainted her image. But it's been interesting to see where this cast goes. And I'm really happy that I got to watch it in its glory days. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are as well. And it's now a show I'm actually proud to show my kids and be like, hey guys, let's sit down and watch some Saved by the Bell, because I learned a lot from the show, and I know they can definitely learn a lot as well. Yeah, Leapy, yikes, Showgirls. On it, how many streams and how many days are you actually getting a reference to Showgirls? Probably not many. So now we move into the 90s. I'm actually going to slide over here a little bit. You remember, waking up in the mornings in the 90s, you had Hang Time, which is awesome. Anthony Anderson, not Anthony Edwards, Anthony Anderson, kind of starred in that. You can't see it here really well in the middle, kind of, where's my finger, right about here. Freaks and Geeks. I don't know how many of you watched Freaks and Geeks. If you have not, this is one that is really funny and definitely worth watching. This is where Jason Segel, Seth Rogen, and the other guy, James Franco, kind of all came together for the first time. They were buddies, they did this show, and it was really really funny, and I think it's really underrated. I actually didn't know about it when it came out, so I kind of watched it later on, and it's really really good. Devora, oh my God, so many good actors in Freaks and Geeks. Yeah, absolutely. That's right. It was everybody's breakout role. And when you watch it, even like some of the smaller characters, you're like, I know that guy, I know that girl. Where do I know them from? So definitely worth a watch. Along with Hang Time, and it was kind of like Saved by the Bell, Hang Time, and California Dreamin'. Was like Saturday morning, right? You had those three shows in a row. Well, at least up here in Toronto, we had those three in a row. And California Dreamin', while it was not wasn't a great show, I wouldn't even say it was a good show, but it fit that theme of school kids together doing something. And it was fun to watch, Saved by the Bell, California Dreamin', and Hang Time all together for sure. Kind of behind my head, Fresh Prince. Fresh Prince was something else, right? Fresh Prince, they just did their kind of reunion episode not too long ago. I hope you all had a chance to watch it. It was really, really touching. Mega, mega moments about Fresh Prince, right? Again, here's another episode, another show that was dealing with stuff in a different way. And nobody thought this was going to go on. How on earth is Will Smith, a rapper, gonna make a TV star? And he was a hit. From the very first episode of Fresh Prince, he was awesome. One of the things they talked about on their reunion, which is absolutely hysterical, is the way Will Smith memorized his lines. Is he memorized everybody's lines, so he would know what people were saying and when to come in. So in the early episodes, if you watch, when other people are talking, he's mouthing all their lines. So I never picked up on it when I was watching it. And now that I saw it and I'm talking about that in the reunion, I look for it all the time, and it's so, so funny. And yeah, Devora, you nailed it. That father episode where, Will's father comes back and, you know, disappears on him. And that last 5 minutes where he breaks down and he grabs Uncle Phil is probably one of the hardest 5 minutes of television to watch. Um, Now, I'm lucky enough in my life, I've never been in that situation. So for me, it was completely unrelatable. But to feel the emotion and to feel what they were going through and how it was delivered across the screen was just so touching. And it's even today, that along with the finale in the empty house are two of the hardest moments to watch of that show. With Fresh Prince, one of my favorites of all time, Carlton, everybody loves Carlton. We got the dance, gotta love the Carlton dance. Um, Carlton was the best. And he had the greatest one-liners, right? But one of my favorite episodes is when they went and Will and Carlton were going to be strippers at the party. And they come out and they're dancing, they're doing their thing, and Carlton gets into it and he has his shirt off. And his mom, Viv is standing there and he goes, Mommy! That was one of my favorite moments. I love that show so much. So, so much. It was one of those shows we had a really bizarre moment, right? We had the original Aunt Viv all of a sudden disappeared, and there was a new mom, there was a new aunt, and nobody really knew what happened. And they talk about that story a lot. Um, to hell with you, why doesn't he want me, man? Yeah, oh, Tavara. Whew. Um, and so when they got together, they talk about the story and they invited the original Aunt Viv back. And apparently, what happened is she was let go of the show, and there were rumors going around that she was really, really difficult to work with. And I think it was in a case where I don't know if she had asked for a raise. I don't remember exactly what led up to it. But Will had kind of been talking behind her back about how she was really difficult to work with and was really driving the show down. And so they got rid of her. And they actually didn't speak for many, 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 many years until this reunion. They came back, and I'm sure there's a lot off camera, but a lot of it is on camera to see them reunite and see them talking. It was really, really special. So yeah, if you haven't watched the Will Smith reunion, the Fresh Prince reunion. Definitely worth a watch. Carlton was great. Hillary was unbelievable. What a great character. There's so many moments with Hillary, but the one that always stands out in my mind is when the fiance was going skydiving to proposing, and he's like, "Will you marry?" And she's like sitting there going, "Yes, yes, what?" Such a crazy character, Hillary. And Ashley, of course, we saw Ashley grow up through that show from a little girl to really kind of a teenager, and when she was trying to be a big pop superstar. So such a good show. Jeffrey, of course, the butler. The show would have been nothing without him. His chemistry with Will and Carlton really really made that show something special. One of my favorite moments also, and I'm going to say it for Dee watching upstairs, because I know it's one of her favorites. Actually, two. Um, One when they were stuck in the earthquake, they were trapped in the basement, and Will's with the girlfriend, and she's like, trying to open the can of soup or whatever it is. She's like, "Can you open this?" And he's like, "Can't you open it?" And something about the nails, and um, and she starts peeling off her fingernails. Here, and like dumps it in his hand. And he's like, "Ugh." I love that scene. And the other scene when they were in college, and was it Tyra Banks, I believe. Was it Tyra Banks? Yes, I think it was. Came in and Will was working in the store, and the two of them start arguing like, "You're never gonna get the last word." "Oh yes, I am." "Oh no, you're not." Damn, all in sequence. It was perfect. See you later, Andy. Thanks so much for stopping by. Really, really appreciate it, my friend. Really appreciate it. So that was Fresh Prince. So many great characters. We could talk about Fresh Prince forever. Um, yeah, I do that here thing all the time. See, Devorah, that stuff comes up everywhere. And sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it until you do it and you're like, "Oh my God, Fresh Prince." The Nanny. I was never a big fan of The Nanny, but Fran Dresser in that laugh, really uh, escalated TV, and it brought a female star, to the fold and put her up front where a lot of these other shows couldn't do it. So definitely wanted to call out The Nanny. Home Improvement was amazing. Tim the Toolman Taylor, everybody knows Toolman. Coach, you had your neighbor, that came up just recently where you were playing the role of the neighbor. Home Improvement was such a great show. Pamela Anderson's starring role as the tool time lady. Um, so Home Improvement, with the three boys was really, really great. And if you watched his latest show, which I think is done now, which, oh my God, why is this name escaping me? My brain is just going a million miles an hour. The new show he did recently, where it was very similar to Home Improvement, and he worked at a store like Bass Pro Shop called Outdoor Man, and he had three girls instead of three boys, was such a great show as well. So Tim Allen is just killing it. Everybody loves Raymond. Such a funny show. Brad Garrett, Ray Romano. Again, this is one I started watching really, really late, but loved it. Um, Last Man Standing. Thank you, Christina G. Last Man Standing is hysterical. The political humor in that show is really, really great. Seinfeld. I saw it in there earlier. A lot of people talking about Seinfeld. Seinfeld was the show beyond shows, right? It's one of the biggest shows of all time, arguably. And what they did and what they put together is something that it's once in a lifetime. We'll never see a show that is as successful as that was, as quick as it was, in drawing the numbers it was. Seinfeld, the show about nothing, is so true. We talk about the fingernail thing from Fresh Prince. How many things from Seinfeld do we do, or quotes do we say all the time that we don't even think about anymore? That, oh, this is from Seinfeld, I'm going to make a quote because it was funny. We just kind of say it, right? Full House was another one of these shows that growing up with was a very, very interesting dynamic situation. I never did watch Fuller House, Snoopy. Actually, that's a lie. I did watch the first couple episodes of Fuller House, I just couldn't get into it. Dina watched it. She enjoyed it. I couldn't get into it. You're right. Yeah. There's the right there. No soup for you. Right. How many times has everyone said no soup for you? Probably more than we could count. Right. Um, Full House was something really, really special. Again, this was kind of lightning in a bottle when you put these casts together. They were really, really cool. I had the pleasure of meeting Dave Coulier at an NHL hockey event many, many years ago, and he was so cool in real life, right? Just like on the show, just such an easygoing guy. Um, so Full House, definitely top marks. And I know I'm cutting a lot of these short because we could we could spend 15 minutes or longer talking about every single one of these shows. Yeah, Uncle Jesse, so cool. The episodes where he played with the Beach Boys. Not sure if you watched Uncle Jesse's new show where he's the coach of a basketball team on Disney Plus. Really, really great show, actually. So definitely check that out. I was really, really impressed by it. Um, I mean, there's so many good shows. I didn't even talk about half the shows in the 80s. I kind of skipped over those, and I know there's a ton in the 90s that we're missing. You know, Frasier, again, I wasn't a huge fan of Frasier. I mentioned that earlier. Boy Meets World, was a lot of fun. Step by Step, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and of course, that 70s show, right? How good was that 70s show? It was amazing. Like there was so much that came out of the 90s in terms of television. And I'm kind of saving the two biggest ones that I want to spend a lot of time talking with or talking about. So first and foremost, a show that started way back that is outside of Saved by the Bell, probably one of my greatest shows of all time, and I could watch this anytime at any day, regardless of where I am. I could watch this show, and that is Married with Children. Again, it's green, so it's not going to show, but I have so many seasons of Married with Children on DVD. This one is the complete first season. I have two, three, four, five. I don't even know how many of them I have. Married with Children was probably the first show I started watching with my family, kind of on a regular cadence when it was on Sunday nights. And yes, Coach N, The Simpsons, absolutely. The Simpsons is definitely up there. Um, and Felicity, some good call outs. But Married with Children, when you watch this, the themes and the topics they discuss, when Fox put this on the air, Fox bet the house, right? They had nothing. They said, we need a show, and Married with Children is going to be our show. And it really saved the network. It was racy. The themes, it was stereotypical. It was everything that if this show was to air today, every executive that made the show and is on the network that aired the show would be fired and tried in some way or another, regardless of how good it was. You had Peggy Bundy, who's the mom who didn't really care about parenting, just wanted to sit and watch Oprah and eat bonbons and get her hair done. You had Al, the shoe salesman who made like no money, and he was the ex high school football star who scored 4 touchdowns in one game. Claiming to his high school glory, who could never get a career and was struggling through life. The kids you had, Christina Applegate, Kelly, who was really the promiscuous, free-loving kind of teenage girl doing whatever she wanted to do. And Bud Bundy was really, the only way to say it is kind of the horny teenage boy who was doing everything he could to get money and find girls, right? Everything about this show is 100% wrong. But everything about the show is 100% right at the same time. It was brilliant. Yeah, Peggy with the trendsetter with the animal print, 100%. This show, they did everything. When you think about it, They were the beer drinkers. They went to the bowling alley. They went to the nudie bar. They got in the fights. They started the No Ma'am Club where it was the boys only. Al's big claim to fame was, when he tried to build his own bathroom in the garage and he got his own throne and, he was the master of the toilet. You had the crazy neighbors, with Steve and Marcy, and eventually Jefferson and Marcy. And that was a weird scenario as well, right? where Steve is there and then Steve's gone and Jefferson comes in, but Steve's still in the picture. Remember, did the one was he came back, he had stolen an eagle's egg or something like that and was on the run. Um, Peggy's sitting there smoking in the house with the kids, not caring. Al sitting out in his little blow up swimming pool, drinking his drinks, not a care in the life. So this show, it was, I think at the time, portraying a lot of stereotypes that people didn't want to talk about, but that they were out there and people in their homes were talking about it and they were laughing about it. But Married with Children brought it to the screen. Um, and it really did it in a way that, yeah, it was racy. Some of it wasn't right, but it was funny. It was entertainment, and it was really a reflection, an extreme reflection, but a reflection of what societies was today, or not today, but back then. Absolutely, Devore. It pushed so many boundaries. If you find it on TV today on a rerun, because there are a couple channels that still do air them at bizarre times, and you watch it, you're like, this show could have never flown today. And I know for a long, long time there were so many rumors about bringing them back and doing a remake, but Ed O'Neill was doing Modern Family, which was huge, and they couldn't pull him off. And then when that ended, there was talk about doing it, but I think Katie Siegel, Peg Bundy, is now doing a show of her own, so they've never been able to get them kind of together. Yes, Christina, of course, 21 Jump Street. 21 Jump Street was so good. I another one I didn't really watch back then. I got into it later. I actually, and some people may shoot me for saying this, I enjoy the movie better than I did the TV show. I love the movie with what's his name and what's his name. Oh man, my names are really bad tonight. But I love the movie. 21 and 22 Jump Street were so funny. They're like my late night movies. If I can't sleep, I put them on. So that's Married with Children. If you haven't seen it or haven't seen it in a long time, Jonah Hill. Thank you, Christina G. I highly recommend going to check it out and watching it because it is. You'll watch it and you'll think to yourself, how on earth was this ever on television and how was this okay? Um, but it was really, really, really funny. Okay, you, sir. Can somebody please ban and get rid of that troll? I can't do it from my screen here. That's not acceptable here. All right, so thank you very much for deleting that, and let's ban that user. So apologies for anyone who did come across and read those messages. Give me one moment. Yeah, it's on my side, I can't actually do anything. Weird. Okay, I will take care of that, but thank you for whoever knocked that guy out. We will make sure to block that. Anyways, on to better things. The biggest show of all time, the one that most people have probably heard of. It's just this little show. It involved probably one of the best ensemble casts of all time and probably has made the most money of all time. Also, just had a recent reunion. And this is one where we talk about in our daily lives, nonstop, Friends. And this is a show that, this is a perfect example of representation of what we just ran through here today. A group of friends hanging out, having a good time, and now we get to talk about one of the biggest shows. Thank you very much, at Devora and at Snoopy and everybody. So, friends, this show broke the world, as far as I'm concerned. When this show started, everybody watched it and everybody loved it, and and it was unbelievable. Christina G. Gunther just passed away. Oh no, I didn't know that. I didn't hear that. He was just on the reunion episode they did, but he was like via satellite. He wasn't there. That's so sorry to hear about Gunther. But this show brought together a group of, I don't want to say no names because they had some work before, but they were a bunch of no names. They brought these strangers together, and it really created such a show with so many memories. You know, pivot, pivot. We've all said it, we've all heard it, we've all laughed at it. We talk about the monkey and all the craziness they had. Um, you know, uh, Ross and sorry, not Ross, Chandler and Joey sitting in the Lazy Boys, playing all their games. I can't tell you how many times, I'd been somewhere with a friend and we'd be somewhere just hanging out and we'd find a stupid game of nothing to play. There was a time, many, many careers ago, we were in an office and it was a shared office of a couple people, and there was like an empty vent kind of in the top. It was just a square cutout. It had a vent on the other side, but it was just to allow the air to flow through. And one of the guys found a box of elastics, so it just became a little game, right? Who could shoot as many elastics up in that little square cutout, as we could? And it became a competition. So everybody finds these silly little nothing games to play, and a big part of that is because friends, they would just hang out and do stuff. Remember when Ross took Rachel to the date at the museum, and and they Devorah's not blue. I didn't even notice that. Thank you, Snoopy, for calling that out, Devorah. I will. Well, I'll have to get that fixed. I'll get you blue. I may have to log into another window. Before we leave tonight, I will get you blue for sure. I may actually have to log into. Oh, here we go. I can do it from here. Boom. There you go, Devorah. You are now blue. Um, Remember when Ross took Rachel on the date and they slept at the museum, right on the floor? They woke up the next morning in the exhibit with the like furry blankets, and everyone came. Everyone was there. That story over the 10-year career of Ross and Rachel, will they, won't they, will they, won't they, will they, won't they, was crazy. I agree, Devorah. If you guys watch the morning show on Apple TV Plus, Jennifer Aniston is killing it. She's still awesome. Um, some of the greatest lines just happened with them hanging in the coffee shop. Phoebe with Smelly Cat. What a crazy song that just came out to be, and is so hugely popular, right? Um, this group when they went to Paris, right? And Phoebe had for Ross's wedding, and Phoebe had to stay home because she was pregnant, and trying to listen on the phones to be there, and then they didn't end up getting married. And of course, the airport where Ross is trying to find Rachel at the end, and he gets on the wrong flight or whatever it was, he can't find her, and then she ends up being at his door. There were so many sweet and touching moments. Some of the best from Friends were the Thanksgiving episodes. I loved the Thanksgiving episodes when they would go down and they'd play football. It was so funny. Yes, Dina, Princess Consuela Banana Hammock and Crap Bag, two classic pieces of Friends history. Now, of course, after Friends, a lot of them went on to do other things that weren't nearly as successful. Matthew Perry had several different shows, all of which I watched, which none of them were good. Ross did, what did he do? He was on, was it? No, it wasn't There was another show Ross was on. I can't think of it better right now. It wasn't good. Of course, Courtney Cox, Scream was huge and really maintained with that. Joey did his show, Joey, which was not overly good. And Phoebe, I don't know what she went on to do. I know she was in a couple of things. I think was she in Space Farce or Space Force with it's on Netflix making fun of the whole Space Force piece. I'm pretty sure she played the wife of one of the guys on there. But yeah, they were two. Like Joey and Chandler really stole the show for me. As much as I hate to say it, I think Ross was the most relatable character for me. The just such a goofy, a little bit nerdy, like to have fun, but in like bizarre ways. But such a great cast, and they did so many amazing things. And I know all of you guys, probably, well, definitely watched it, some more than others. I didn't get into it till much later, but I've gone back and watched a lot of the early episodes. This is still a show, and I will admit it. Yes, Christina G, thank you. Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion was not overly good, but it had some lines. So I will admit this. I know, late at night, my wife showed, when she's going to watch something, Friends is her go-to. And usually I end up changing the channel when she falls asleep to put on something else. And that's only because if I left Friends on the TV, I would end up watching it for hours and hours because at night it's just nonstop, right? Or you put it on streaming, you watch episode after episode. Yeah, Tom Selleck as the boyfriend. That's right, Tom Selleck. Paul Rudd was in there as a boyfriend. Remember when they went to the Bahamas in the hair? Courtney Cox's hair was just out of control. Um, so many great moments. So I wanted to really end tonight talking a little bit about Friends because it was the most impactful. Yes, Saved by the Bell as a kid was huge. Married with Children was huge, but Friends really nothing beat television the way Friends beat television. Friends destroyed everything. It will always be number one. Seinfeld was up there. Seinfeld was really close, but for me, Friends, you know, takes the cake every single time. Hey, Eleanor, thanks so much for popping in. Appreciate it. So such a great episode. If you haven't watched Friends in a long time, definitely do yourself a favor, throw it on and have a good laugh. There are so many shows out there to choose from, and unfortunately, most things nowadays are on streaming. Long gone are the days when you have to kind of wait week after week to watch the shows. But I definitely recommend watching it, putting it on and watching it. I think that's probably what we're going to do tonight is watch some episodes of Friends because it is definitely good for a laugh. So this has been such an unbelievable night, and you guys have been so kind to hang out for a little over an hour now and kind of go back through time and talk about all of this stuff with me. And I can't thank you guys enough because, we hit a major milestone tonight, right? We hit our 200 subscribers, which blows my mind. So I am more than happy. We're actually now by this count at 204. So thank you guys all so much for contributing. We do this every week. We are here next week. We are going to go down a path we haven't gone before. We are going for the first time here. We are going to talk about the Big D. Get your minds out of the gutter, people. We're talking Disney. We are going to go back in time and talk some retro Disney to talk about some of the rides, some of the movies, some of the toys, just a general Disney stream. Yeah, that's right. Our first troll, that was a doozy of a troll, I'll tell you, as well. So it has been a wild ride. Um, what we have coming up this week, um, tonight is Tuesday. Gosh, I'm all shook up now. What do I have this week? Um, There is going to be a vlog coming out. We're going somewhere later this week. I'm not going to say what it is in case Jacob is watching. If you are, Jacob, what time is it? You should probably be in bed. Oh no, he's still up. It's not bedtime yet, but I don't want to ruin it for him. So there'll be a vlog coming later. Saturday night, I'm going to be calling the Toronto Maple Leaf and Detroit Red Wing hockey game. So instead of our hockey talk episode, I'm going to be calling the game, doing the play-by-play. And then on Sunday is Halloween. We are going to attempt to do a Halloween stream. We'll see how that goes. And then right back here Tuesday. So thanks everybody so much. I have so much appreciation for all of you. You guys have no idea. I can't wait to talk to you very, very soon. Have a wonderful evening, a wonderful night, and keep healthy. And we'll see you real soon.